The moment Yang Xinxin saw Liang Yu, she ran over excitedly and hugged her tightly. "Teacher Liang, are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine. I feel very good actually, thanks to Mr. Deng's help." Although Zhang Yi also wanted to ask Liang Yu about the experiment, he suppressed his impulse after glancing at Deng Yuanbo and Lian Cheng next to him. He slowly walked over and asked calmly, "How is it? Are you feeling okay now?" Liang Yu raised her head to meet Zhang Yi's gaze, smiled and nodded slightly. Then, Zhang Yi shifted his gaze back to Deng Yuanbo. "Mr. Deng, thank you very much." Deng Yuanbo smiled and calmly replied that this outcome was what they agreed on. "I said that if you can resolve Eclipse Moon, we will both benefit." "Okay then, since you said so, then I won't be polite about this matter." Thinking of Liang Yu's transformation, Zhang Yi suddenly thought of letting everyone around him going through similar process. "There are still some people in my team who needs to improve their strength. What do you think?" He figured he might as well ask this while Deng Yuanbo still needed him. The moment Lian Cheng heard this, his expression suddenly became cold and serious, annoyed by Zhang Yi's shamelessness and audacity. "Mr. Zhang, you may not understand how much resources we need to spend to improve the strength of a mutant. Also, this kind of experimental process is not something that anyone can bear." Deng Yuanbo raised a hand to silence his housekeeper and suggested a compromise. Although they can't make them achieve tremendous progress in a short period of time like Miss Liang, they can still help them improve their bodies and some of their strength. "I see. I already guessed it wouldn't be that simple. But it seems we may still have the chance to cooperate again in the future," Zhang Yi stated after some considerations. He was just asking and he didn't really know any detailed rules about this direct request. He didn't make any more requests when he and Deng Yuanbo casually exchanged a few words. But throughout the entire exchange, Deng Yuanbo was as friendly as an NPC who only appeared in this moment in time to give buffs. Zhang Yi didn't dare to underestimate him. This old fox is much better at playing power games than him. Before leaving, Deng Yuanbo gave Zhang Yi a brooch. It was Deng Shintong's relic, and with it, it will be much easier to integrate the members of the God Team. This gesture was really thoughtful and Zhang Yi thanked him. But he knew he really didn't need to borrow strength in taming a few subordinates. He placed the brooch into his alternate space and found an excuse and left with his people. Deng Yuanbo did not stop them, but enthusiastically asked Lian Cheng to take them outside where the Deng family's car will take them back to where they lived. Zhang Yi said nothing along the way, but the moment they got back to the villa, he couldn't shut up. He asked very curiously, "What exactly is the Deng family's experiment about? And to what level have you improved your strength? Do you feel unwell?" Seeing Zhang Yi's expectant and nervous expression, Liang Yu smiled and explained, "The process of the experiment was very strange. They put me in a transparent glass chamber, injected me with some drugs, and performed some very strange operations." Recalling the process of the experiment, Liang Yu felt a chill in her blood vessels. She suddenly shuddered slightly. "I feel like I've been reborn. And I mean quite literally, it's like I've been reborn. In 3 days, my skin has completely changed. And even my blood and organs have also undergone obvious changes. Because you need to stay awake for a long time, and that feeling is not something that ordinary people can bear." Liang Yu's face was very serious when she said this, and Zhang Yi couldn't help but swallow his saliva. When Deng Yuanbo talked to him about this matter, he didn't mention the pain they had to endure during the experiment. But he said that he had high requirements for the candidates, and he specifically chose Liang Yu. Zhang Yi originally thought that it was because he only brought Liang Yu and Yang Xinxin to Blizzard City. Now it seems that it is not that simple at all, because this kind of experiment of forcing growth was really not something that ordinary people could bear. "Is it so painful?" Liang Yu nodded. "If I didn't have good physical fitness or strong willpower, I would probably die or have a mental breakdown during the experiment." Hearing this, Yang Xinxin couldn't help but walk over and gently hug her teacher. "Teacher Liang, it turns out you have suffered so much." Yang Xinxin's tone was full of heartache. She still respected this simple and kind-hearted teacher of hers very much. But unexpectedly, Liang Yu smiled and shook her head slightly. "This was originally what I chose. They also reminded me before the experiment that the process was very painful. And the greater the pain I endure, the greater the gain." This gain even surprised Liang Yu. She clenched her raised fists, flexing her new power with a renewed confidence. For the first time in her life, she felt that this body was like a sports car with a full tank of fuel, and she could drive the horsepower to her heart's content. Zhang Yi stared at Liang Yu and began to measure her current real combat power with a satisfied smile. Obviously, Liang Yu's combat skills needed not to be said at all, and she had already maxed out. The only shortcoming is that she has devoured too few mutants, resulting in a combat power of only ordinary Delta level. According to Zhang Yi's inference, Liang Yu's previous comprehensive ability level was actually similar to Xiao Honglian, Wei Dinghai, and the others. So now, what's her combat power level? A plan quietly emerged in Zhang Yi's mind, and a smirk appeared at the corner of his mouth. I think I should find an opponent for you to test your current strength. The opponents Zhang Yi was referring to were naturally the members of his Tengu team. Zhang Yi called Bailey Chongqing and informed him to call the members of the Tengu squad to gather at the training ground of the combat center at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. He will be holding their first full meeting there. The next day, at the training ground on the basement floor of the combat center, Zhang Yi was about to convene his first meeting as a captain of an investigation team. Needless to say, the Black Robe Squad had a good relationship with him, and with the help of Bailey Chongqing, everyone could naturally accept Zhang Yi's leadership. Wu Di watched Zhang Yi's approaching figure with a lot of emotion in his eyes. Not long ago, Zhang Yi was just the leader of a force in Tianhai City. But now, he had become his leader. Zhang Yi came over, and as his eyes swept across the scene, he only saw the members of the Black Robe team, but he didn't see the 3 members of the God team. He already knew that the 3 guys must be dissatisfied with him being the captain and are deliberately showing this childish behavior. Zhang Yi didn't dwell on this matter, and told Yang Xinxin and Liang Yu to join the group. Bailey Chongqing and the others looked at Liang Yu and Yang Xinxin with surprise in their eyes, because when they were in Tianhai City, Liang Yu's combat effectiveness was far from the first-class level. At best, it was at the same level as Wei Dinghai and Xiao Honglian. As for Yang Xinxin, she was not even a mutant in the past. The group were a little suspicious, but no one raised any objections. Zhang Yi slowly approached the crowd and asked his deputy captain a question. Bailey, according to the investigation team's rules, what should be done if you are late for a gathering? Bailey Chongqing heard this and smiled. According to the regulations, they will be given a serious punishment and are also required to make a public self-criticism in front of the whole team. The investigation team was a special force, and the tasks they perform were of great responsibility and may even endanger the safety of the entire Jiangnan region. Therefore, their discipline was even stricter. Zhang Yi raised his eyebrows and his smile became more and more obvious. Oh? The punishment is quite severe. Then the 3 guys on the list who didn't come will be executed according to this. The members of the Black Robe team looked at each other, then at Zhang Yi with evident surprise. It turns out that if these same members are punished once more, they will be expelled from the investigation team according to the regulations. Is this how Zhang Yi plays on his first day in office? Bailey Chongqing replied in a deep voice. Yes, discipline is discipline. Once it is violated, there is no reason and the required punishment can be enforced. This is the iron law of the military. But at this moment, a cold voice suddenly came from above their heads. Hey, who is late? On the second floor of the training ground, 3 men in their usual outfit looked down below, and each of them was full of provocation. This was a contempt for the new captain they disliked. Oh, so you are Chaos, right? What a tacky name. But since you want to learn to be a captain so bad, at the very least, don't make such a low-level mistake on your first day, because you won't succeed in scaring people like us with the threat of a serious punishment for every little thing. Zhang Yi was unmoved and ignored their existence. He simply ordered Bailey Chongqing to follow the rules and count them as late. The faces of the 3 guys suddenly changed. They didn't expect Zhang Yi to dare to play like this. A mutant from an outer city, who had just arrived and was lucky enough to become a temporary captain, really dared to ignore them? Hey, what are you doing? Aren't we already here? Yi, one of the 3 shouted to the bottom. I didn't see it, so it doesn't count. Zhang Yi said lightly, but I will give you 10 seconds to stand in front of me immediately. Otherwise, you won't be needed in this team. Zhang Yi stared at the boring and plain watch on his hand and counted the movement of the second hand. Yi's face turned extremely ugly. He wanted to teach Zhang Yi a lesson, but he didn't expect their new captain to be this ruthless. The 3 guys dared not play with fire anymore. Xue Miao grabbed Yi and Lu Yinghao's arms. Then the 3 people flew into the air, a whirlwind suddenly surrounding them. They landed safely from that high altitude in a dramatic fashion. What a pity. You guys even made it with 2 seconds to spare. Yi folded his arms leisurely and stared at Zhang Yi with a sneer. Chaos, what makes you think you're certified to be our captain? I came here to verify if you are truly qualified, but so far, not so much. Zhang Yi raised his eyebrows, his expression cold and murderous. Oh, do you need to tell me if I am qualified? Who do you think you are? Yi replied that since they were using the strict rules in this gathering, then there was such a clause in the rules and regulations of the investigation team that stated that the captain of an investigation team must accept the challenge of the team members. If he fails the challenge, then he will also lose his position as the captain. Also, this challenge cannot be refused. So, As a member of the Tengu team, he challenged Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi was silent for a moment, a little annoyed. He didn't have time to entertain this clown, knowing full well the other two might also try this similar tactic. So he chose to challenge the three together. Besides, his time was precious, and he felt too lazy to wait for the martial arts field to be prepared just for this measly battle. They will just solve it here and now. The rest calmly left the huge training ground platform, leaving Zhang Yi and the three clowns. When Bailey Chongqing asked Liang Yu if she believes Zhang Yi can win the 3-against-1 matchup, Liang Yu just simply stated the obvious. Their captain never fights a battle he wasn't confident in winning. Lu Yinghao took action immediately. He placed his hands into the backs of Yi He and Xue Miao, activating his ability, Poison Doctor. Lu Yinghao was a special ability user, and his body fluids can be turned into deadly poisons or into potions to strengthen the body. At the beginning of the battle, he first injected adrenaline into his two companions to increase their physical excitement, their mobility, and even improve their senses by several levels. And of course, he also strengthened himself to the maximum. After being strengthened, Xue Miao took out a dagger. A turbulent whirlwind emerged around his body, wrapping the three of them in it. Zhang Yi did not move at all, and even slowly took out his two white owls loaded with holy silver bullets from his alternate space. Suddenly, right in front of his eyes, a gust of wind rushed towards him. The surging airflow even had a huge impact in his field of vision. Riding the wind, Xue Miao appeared behind Zhang Yi in an instant. Xue Miao, a release ability user with codenamed Windwalker. He can manipulate the power of storms and is great in assassination. Anyway, with the help of his strong wind, he tried to stab Zhang Yi from behind. Zhang Yi seemed not to notice it, and did not even turn his head or make any reaction. But the moment the dagger in his hand was swung fiercely towards the back of Zhang Yi, he seems to have suddenly disappeared into thin air, and Xue Miao's dagger also seems to have pierced into the void. Huh? Xue Miao's pupils shrank suddenly, and he sensed something dangerous and ominous about this strange space. His movements were too fast, and his entire right arm had already sunk into Zhang Yi's dimensional space. This is not good. Xue Miao was shocked and wanted to withdraw. Although he didn't know what Zhang Yi's ability was, his intuition told him that after entering that strange space, his fate would be very miserable. But at this moment, a black muzzle of a gun was pointed at his head. Xue Miao didn't even turn his head, but he felt a sense of dread. After Zhang Yi calmly aimed the huge muzzle of the gun at Xue Miao's head, he pulled the trigger without hesitation. Or so it seems. Cursing silently, Xue Miao gritted his teeth, and the wind around him whistled more violently. His figure disappeared in an instant, and when he appeared again, he was already dozens of meters away. The gunshot echoed in the training ground, and the bullet hit the floor, emitting sparks. Xue Miao's eyes showed caution. A space ability user? How can I fight if I can't even attack at close range? He was an assassin, so his speed and body movements were his most advantageous weapons in killing opponents with one blow. However, it seems Zhang Yi's ability was restraining him. There must be a flaw in his defense. I must find his flaw first. Zhang Yi's mouth curled up, and he looked at Xue Miao, whose eyes showed a hint of worry, as if he was trying to figure out something. The shot just now was just a warning. Just now, he almost couldn't help but kill Xue Miao. Instinctively, Zhang Yi was particularly sensitive to the attacks behind him. But before pulling the trigger, he remembered that it would be troublesome for him if these guys died. So he hesitated slightly, giving Xue Miao the chance to escape. Xue Miao immediately conveyed his thoughts to Yi He and Lu Yinghao. His ability is very strange. It seems to be a spatial ability, and my attacks was absorbed. The different dimensional space has no ability to actively attack, let alone directly collect living things. But if Xue Miao hadn't reacted in time, he would have become Zhang Yi's possession. After hearing what Xue Miao said, Lu Yinghao wanted to try his luck. He also took out a dagger and quickly cut his palm. A blood mark appeared, but no blood flowed out. Instead, streams of blood mist flew out of the wound like a swarm of insects, and turned into a red mist all over the sky, and then swept towards Zhang Yi like a hurricane. Lu Yinghao's own blood can be turned into a deadly poison that penetrates the human body. As long as it touches the human skin, it can quickly penetrate into it and kill the other party. As the red mist surrounded Zhang Yi in an instant, Lu Yinghao tried to use this method to test Zhang Yi's weakness. However, Zhang Yi calmly and slowly raised his hands. He aimed two white owls at them and started shooting. Zhang Yi was done playing nice. As long as they're not killed, no matter how serious the injury was, the medical center in Blizzard City can save them. But if they are disabled, then that's unfortunate. The red mist completely sank into Zhang Yi's different space and did not cause any harm to him. but his holy silver bullets rained down on the three like a storm. Fortunately enough, Zhang Yi only used the holy silver bullet and never activated any other skill. The three, including Lu Yinghao, strengthened with adrenaline, made their reaction speed agile enough. And with the buffs, they barely escaped the first round of shooting in embarrassment. He was unwilling to believe that Zhang Yi didn't have a weak spot, because as long as he can find it, he can use his shadow to restrain him. Under his feet, the black shadow flickered and changed, like an evil spirit waiting for an opportunity to move. However, since he hadn't found Zhang Yi's weakness yet, he can't act easily. That would only expose his trump card. Bailey Chongqing saw this scene and shook his head helplessly. What a pity. They didn't know that Zhang Yi's ability code in the official information was absolute defense, and the abilities of the three of them were simply a waste of Zhang Yi's time. There is only one way to break through Zhang Yi's ability, which is to use an absolutely powerful force to break through the threshold of energy absorption in the alternate space at one time, resulting in the temporary failure of the dimensional gate. But with Zhang Yi's current strength, to do this, only those with extremely powerful release or special ability, and mutants of the same level or even above him, can do it. This was, after all, the strength of a captain-level mutant who focuses on defense. Xue Miao's magic of movement was completely useless against Zhang Yi. Even if he could get close, he couldn't find a weakness to attack. Lu Yinghao's ability was even more useless. He could only release poison through physical means that can turn anyone into a pool of mud when it touches them, but this method was naturally defeated by Zhang Yi. Only he hadn't activated his ability yet, but he was waiting for an opportunity. Unfortunately for these clowns, Zhang Yi knew all their abilities. He was also a release-type mutant with codename Phantom Killer. He uses shadows to kill opponents within a range of 300 meters. At the same time, he could use shadows to exchange positions with people. In essence, he was also an assassin. And what assassins like to do most is to wait for the perfect opportunity. But against a mutant of Zhang Yi's caliber, his ability was also extremely useless like his companions. Of course, they could also choose to escape. However, the effect of adrenaline buff was about to wear off, so they needed to be careful. The battle had been dragging on for so long, and the three guys were still not dealt with. Liang Yu felt that Zhang Yi was really playing with his food like an adult teasing three naughty children. She even feels sorry for these three guys who don't know the height of the world. In the eyes of the spectators, the battle was somewhat funny. He and his companions were like three monkeys, jumping up and down, avoiding Zhang Yi's bullet attacks. They were at a loss and had no other way to defend. Xue Miao was the first to be shot after the effect of adrenaline slowly wore off. His leg was penetrated by the holy silver bullet, creating a bullet hole in his left leg. He screamed in pain and fell directly to the ground with a loud thud. Zhang Yi pointed his gun at his head, and then shot him on the floor next to his ear. Green smoke lingered, and Xue Miao was frightened to his core. "No, Captain, wait. I give up. He just wanted to gain some benefits from Zhang Yi, and he didn't intend to fight his captain in a life-threatening match." The moment he realized that the situation was not good, he called it quits. Seeing Xue Miao surrender, Lu Yinghao was also anxious. And as the weakest member of the God Squad, Lu Yinghao knew that the general trend could not be violated, so he decisively chose to surrender. "Captain, I also give up. I am really not your opponent." He raised his hands and retreated to the sidelines. As a human being, the most important thing is to be alive and healthy. Why play with your life? He gritted his teeth and cursed inwardly. Under his feet, his shadow twisted and deformed at will, and then used the exchange of positions between his shadow and the human body to accurately dodge Zhang Yi's rounds of bullets. Zhang Yi couldn't help but admire him a little. This guy is worthy of being a middle-level member of the God Squad. He is really good. Zhang Yi, although you have taken advantage of the rules here, can you stay there and not come out on the battlefield? If I want to escape, how will you deal with it?